Good day, everyone, and welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host. My name is Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And this podcast for my new listeners today is about those individuals who are ready to move forward in their lives, ready to mitigate those self imposed barriers, overcome obstacles, do whatever is necessary as long as legal, ethical, and moral for you to do what's necessary for you to start living your best life on your terms. And as you know, we talk about topics related to business and personal development and self improvement. And check this out. Have you ever had a really bad day? Think about it. Many of us have had some really bad days, but we have a special guest on today to talk about how we never quit on a bad day. So let's hear all about it. Welcome to the stage. Well, hello, Phebe Trotman. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, Cassandra. How are you? It's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I'm looking forward to this conversation because we want to make sure that nobody quits on a bad day. And that's the name of our podcast today, Never Quit on a Bad Day. But before we take a deep dive into this podcast, I'd like to read Phoebe's bio just so you get to know her and understand where she's been, all her accomplishments thus far. Phebe Trotman is a Vancouver-based entrepreneur and accomplished soccer player. She has achieved many accolades as an athlete, including being inducted into several sports halls of fame, winning championship titles, and being recognized as an exceptional athlete. Phoebe has also excelled in her career as a network marketer, earning top awards and recognition within her company. She recently released her first book in a planned series, Never Quit on a Bad Day. Remember those 6 words, never quit on a bad day. Inspiring stories of resilience. Reading it will energize you to overcome your challenges, strengthen you with the tools needed to do it, and invoke your sense of gratitude for your personal journey. She is passionate about personal growth, empowering others to reach their full potential. Wow, congratulations on all those accomplishments. What I'd like to know though, I'd like for you to share your journey that has gotten you to be a distinguished athlete and also a prestigious award from your network marketing company. Tell us about that journey there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And so, my journey, first of all, as an athlete started very, very young. I was about 4 or 5 years old when I started playing soccer. I started because my older brother played. And so I was, going in the field anyways. And I told my parents I wanted to play. And so I started off playing on a boys team. So I was the only girl on an all boys team. I was the only person of color on an all boys team. And so it was an interesting experience. I love playing. I had my older brother, older cousins. And so playing in a boys environment didn't really phase me, if you will. And
Okay.
I was already used to being kind of the only person of color in a lot of environments where I grew up. So I just started and fell in love with it and continued playing right through university and had a great career as a university athlete, and then transitioned into playing professional soccer. And I've been very fortunate to be on some amazing teams where we've won national championships, and I've had a lot of personal success. And one of the things I always share, though, is the only reason I was able to have some of those incredible highlights with the national championships and personal success in the athletic world is because of the tough stuff. Getting cut from a team, sitting on the bench and wanting to play, only getting 5 minutes and having to push through and train and have those hard conversations with myself, look in the mirror, what can I do to be better so that I can turn into and grow into an athlete who's contributing and getting, playing full games and starting and all the stuff that I wanted to have. So I
Wow.
learned a lot on the field that I was able to transfer into the business world, if you will, as a network marketer, because it's the life skills that you learn as an athlete that
Yes.
help in terms of life, working together with a team to accomplish a goal and navigating different personalities. And again, having those bumps in the road as building a business and pushing through those to continue to grow, to create success in my business as well.
Okay. Okay. So what's your I say your driving force to help others discover their joy? You're driven by that? What is that? Tell.
I and I believe because I've been so fortunate to have so many incredible people who I've looked up to as mentors, some of them through personal close relationships, some of them it's just through YouTubes and podcasts and
Mhm,
workshops and different things I've attended, and I know how much I've grown as a person, how I've
mhm,
really grown as an individual because I've had incredible people who've helped me, that I wanna give that to other people as well, because I know
mhm.
what when you make a few adjustments in your life, what can you can create out of that, right? And for some people it's just starting to dream again, like what's something that lights someone's fire, that brings a smile to their face, that they enjoy. Sometimes it's helping the person remember that or find something that helps them. Sometimes it's just a small shift in terms of finding more gratitude in your life for what you are, and sometimes it's goal setting and having a community that's going to rally around you to help you get there. So I feel like because I've seen how my life has transformed over the years, that I just
Mhm.
want to help other people have that same, um, just again, find that joy so that they're smiling more, really is truly what it
Right,
comes down
right.
to.
How did you go about finding mentors? You talked about the relationships that you've had in your life. There are people that are listening that probably don't even have a mentor or
Mhm,
a coach. But that's something I don't take for granted, but we
mhm.
don't. So could you share the value that you found in these relationships or the mentors, and how did you go about finding them?
Yeah, so some of it started just with books, really and truly, and that's, why I was also inspired in terms of creating a book, because, it can just be through reading a book that you get some gems, and then you look to explore that a bit further. So part of it started with reading a book, and then
Mhm.
from that, I was like, okay, well, where can I meet this person? How can I, have a more
Okay.
intimate encounter, if you will, in terms of attending a workshop? So then I went to workshops, and then from
Mhm,
there, it kind of opened up this whole world of personal development. My
mhm.
dad was an instructor for the Dale Carnegie course as well too, so I had a lot of personal development in my
Yeah,
home,
right.
as well. And then it was just looking to move forward. So taking workshops like a Dale Carnegie training and going to different events, just really wanting to learn. I think the key, and this is what I always encourage people, is we can learn so much. It's the application. So what
Right.
I would do is I'd go to an event or read a book, and I always look for what's one thing that I can pull from this that I can apply to my life. What's
Okay.
one thing, right? I just simplify it. I go down to like what's because oftentimes we'll go in analysis paralysis. We have all these great ideas, and
Right.
this happened to me in the beginning. I just feel over like there's too many ideas. Where do I even start? So simplifying and choosing one thing and moving forward. And from there, if it wasn't someone who I had access to in terms of asking to be a mentor or coach,
Right.
there's a lot of incredible mentors and coaches out there. It's just a matter
Okay.
of stepping forward into it, right? And asking for
Okay.
that. And I was fortunate in building a network marketing company as well, that there were mentors, and we had a strong personal development culture in the community that started, like also kind of continued me on in the journey of looking for mentors and people I could learn from and people I could also give to.
Right. You talked about you asked them. So is there a way? So do you just ask them and say, look, could you take my listeners through your approach and having somebody or asking them to be your mentor or your coach? And then you would think that when you ask somebody, they would never say no, right?
There's gonna be some no's. No's are part of it. Okay, and I think it depends, right? I think it depends who you're
Okay.
reaching out to, number 1. Like, if this is a person who has a coaching business, well, then
Yes.
you're bringing them on as a coach, and I recommend, finding someone who you align with, someone who has that track record of what you're looking to create, if you will, and then having conversations, because you want to, especially in a coaching relationship, you wanna
Yeah.
have, someone who you share some values and same similar values and beliefs, if you will. You
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure, you respect them, they respect you, and, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a coaching relationship. And that's
Right.
like, when I look at that in terms of a coach, that might be more of a like paid situation where you're
Right.
hiring them to be your coach.
Okay.
From a mentorship perspective, I think it really depends on what because everyone's time is so precious. And
Yeah.
I feel like some of the people who've reached out to me in terms of mentorship, I want to know, like, how can I help you them, but also what are they looking for in that relationship, and what does the
Mm-hmm.
mentorship look like to them, right?
Okay.
Because I also want to make sure, if I'm going to commit to being someone's mentor, that I can help them to get to where they want to go, and I might not be the best fit for that mentorship. And so
Right.
I feel like in asking, I do the same thing. It's like, well, what am I looking to, why am I reaching out to this person as a mentor, realizing that people are very busy. So I want to make it as simple as possible for them. It's just like, it might even just be a one conversation, like, hey, you know what,
Sure.
Cassandra, I really admire what you've been able to do in terms of creating your podcast and building this brand. Like, can we schedule a short conversation, 30 minutes? I just have a couple questions that I would love it
Okay.
if I could do that. And also remember, what are you giving them out of it as well, too, right? It needs
Right.
to be, especially if you're reaching out to someone who you don't have a relationship with already,
Right.
you need to also remember that they're busy, they have other things. So how can you also provide value to that person? And it might be where in the beginning, as I said, I've had personal relationship, but I've also learned from a lot of people from afar, right? Through podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
listening and then applying. And that's something, once you've applied something that someone's listened, like you've learned from them,
Yeah.
going back to them and saying, you know what, I learned this from your book, or I learned this from your podcast, or I've learned this from your workshop. I really admired it. I put it into practice and I'm looking to go to the next step. Would you be open to a short conversation? And
So,
just see what they
yeah.
say from there.
So you think there's a difference between a coach and a mentor?
It Yes and no. I think
Okay.
yes and no. I think a mentor can be your coach, and your coach can be a mentor. I was just using it differentiate in terms of, because some
Sure.
people, if someone has a coaching business, like this is what
Okay.
they are doing, I then wouldn't necessarily go to that person, because the mentorship, to me, I look at mentorship as, it's not they're not necessarily, I'm not getting paid to be someone's mentor, or I'm not
Okay.
paying for someone to be my mentor. That's why
Okay.
I separate the two from a
Okay.
coach. Because a coach,
Okay.
I would look at it as a coaching business where you're getting paid. That's just my own, in my brain,
Sure.
how I look at the two.
Absolutely.
Some people use them interchangeably. So,
Right. And I asked that question because I get that a lot. Well, what's the difference, between a coach and a mentor? So I wanted to get your perspective on it. Um, you talked about being, what I would say, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
mhm.
Wow. How can that happen? I mean, come on. How do you get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
It's how do you get comfortable being uncomfortable? Part of it is just doing it. And the reason I say that is, I remember hearing a quote many, many years ago: life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So Donald Walsh. And when I heard that quote, it was like my mind just expanded, because it hit me in the way that, if
Mm,
you want to get to the next level, like, there's gonna be it's gonna be uncomfortable. Otherwise, you already would have it, right? If you want to get to the
right.
next level in your fitness career, you're gonna have to go through some uncomfortable things. You're gonna have to increase your weight. You're gonna have to run fast. You're gonna have to go longer in endurance. Like, there's gonna be pieces of it that you're gonna have to grow through to
Hmm.
get to where you want to go. And so, having that mindset of just kind of embracing it, it doesn't mean, I love to be uncomfortable. I just had to get
Right.
comfortable with
Yeah.
the idea that the things that I want are on the other side of that. So I have to
Mhm.
get comfortable with pushing through and embracing that, because if we didn't, we'd already have everything that we already wanted, right? So it's on the other side of that. And
Yeah.
when you learn to embrace that feeling and realize that, well, if I embrace this, it's taking me closer to what I want to accomplish. So
Mhm.
even though I might
Yeah.
not want to do the extra rep of burpee, I might not want to stand
Yeah.
on stage and feel jittery, but if I want to get other things, it might mean embracing some of those things as well too.
Right. Okay. Now, I love the title of your book, which is the title of the podcast, Never Quit on a Bad Day. What triggered you to write this book? And I'm also was fascinating with the contributors. Like how did you get all of those folks to contribute to your book? Or is my assessment incorrect when I say the contributors? So what triggered you to write the book? How did you get those contributors for the book? And also, well, I'll say my other question because I don't want to give you too many at one time.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say
yeah,
baby step. Okay,
right.
so with the book, it's interesting because I have a lot of life goals. However, writing a book really wasn't on that list of life goals. I
Mm-hmm.
knew I wanted to create something to help people. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
always on my heart. And so I was actually with some friends, and I was sharing. They're entrepreneurs as well, and we are just chatting about what's next. And I said, it's been on my heart for a few years. I want to create something to help and inspire, just because I've learned so much. And they were the ones actually who recommended write a book. And
Right.
I sort of hesitated a little bit. I was like, I don't know. And they kind of flipped it on me because I had shared earlier that one of the reasons that I work so hard to hit the top rank in my company with my amazing team, shout out to my incredible team,
Yeah.
was because I wanted people to see that someone else could do it. You could be a person of color, you could be a female, you could live in another country. That really was important to me. And so they kind of shared it. Well, the same reason I worked hard to hit that rank is the same reason that I should write this book, because it will help
Okay.
people. And so when they shared it like that, then I was like, okay, good point. And then I realized, if I'm going to write a book, it has to do two things. It has to help and inspire people. And I also have to feel very passionate about it.
Right.
And the month before, I had been inducted into the Coquitlam Sports Hall of Fame, and there was a short interview process, and they asked about what have I gotten from sport, and I shared the life lessons that we kind of chatted about, and I also shared the only reason I was able to have those highlights that I've had in my career because of the tough stuff. And I realized in that moment, when I was talking about the book with those friends, that's what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to share stories of the challenges so people know you're not alone in your challenges. The challenge may not be the exact same, but there'll be
Sure.
parallels in terms. And so
Exactly.
then I was like, yes, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then I remember hearing the saying, never quit on a bad day, many, many years before that. And I was like, that would be a great title for a book.
Yeah.
And so I do this thing, I call it my open the door, close the door with God. And so I was like, okay, God, open the door. If this is the way I'm supposed to move forward, never quit on a bad day, the domain name will be available. That URL, never quit on a bad day. It'll be
Okay.
there. Or you'll close the door, it's not available, then maybe I'm not supposed to write this book and move forward, or maybe it's a different title, so that was kind of where I was at. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I got home, I put it in, and I actually was expecting it to be taken. I really was prepared, which I was like, okay, I
Right.
don't have to write a book. Sure, I
Right.
try,
Yeah.
and then I typed it in, it was available, and I was like,
Wow.
wait, what? I was like, oh, okay, God, I guess this is what we're doing. And then the
Wow.
vision just grew from there, because originally, I always wanted to create something that also combined kind of my athletic background as well as my network marketing business background. And then I realized in starting to think about this more, then the vision just grew. And I was like, well, it's actually a series of books, and I can, the lessons again will be the same throughout in terms of the parallels and challenges that people work through. However, we'll do, a book, Thriving Entrepreneurs. We'll do an Accomplished Athletes book. We'll do a women's edition, and, so on. And so it's been exciting. And in terms of how did I get the contributors to contribute, they're all
Right.
people who I have an existing relationship with, that I've had a chance, whether I've worked with them, I've looked up to them. They've been a mentor, a friend, and I just reached out to them. I let them know, here's what I'm looking to create, and I want to
Right.
create it to help people. And just what I shared in terms of, when you're reaching out to someone, a mentor, like I shared with them how much I value them and how much I've learned from them over the years. And I really
Okay.
want other people to have a chance to learn from them too. Would they
Okay.
be open to sharing this? Because I
Wow.
know this book will help a lot of people, and they were all open to it. And the book came together really, really well. I'm really excited and
Yeah.
thrilled that
That
people, yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. So these are people that some of them you already knew,
All of
or
them I already knew. All of
all
yeah,
of
I know
them.
all of them.
Wow,
Mhm.
that is fascinating. And my other question you answered, because I'm like, is this going to be a series? And it sounds like it is. It's like chicken soup for the soul. So,
Mhm.
right. That's amazing. I haven't had the opportunity to read your book, but I'm looking forward to it because I'm curious to, like I said in the beginning, we all have bad days. Um,
Mhm.
but I'd like to know though, if based on the conversations that you had, and if people found if they quit right in the midst of something big, what what did they say they would lose? Like what would some of the lessons, because some people maybe did quit,
Hmm.
when they had a bad day. So from a bad day experience, for the ones people you encountered, what did they say about that? This way it'll stop or have my listeners before they quit, because they've had a bad day. What could happen if they quit?
Absolutely. So in the book, the way, and I'll make sure you get a copy of the book because I would love for you to read it and learn from it and grow from it and share the lessons in it. So one of the things with the book, what I asked the contributors is I wanted them to share a time, a moment, whether it's a day or a season where they wanted to quit something, and it could
Right.
be, quit on a goal or dream. It could be quit on a business, quit on whatever. It was really left open. So all the stories are very varied in terms of
I
that's
apologize
okay. That's okay.
for Max. The Cocker Spaniel is in there trying to stop me from hearing what you're saying, but that's not going to happen.
No, we're gonna keep going through.
That's
So
right. Really. So
yeah, so
yes.
so with it, the contributors really got to choose what they wanted to share, and it was more focused on kind of when they felt like they wanted to quit on something. So for some
Mhm.
of them, it was a goal. For some of them, it was their business. For some of them, it was just personal, very challenging times that they were going through. And so, in that, one of the things that we didn't focus so much on, like what they would have lost, how they quit. There is some of that in there where you can see if they didn't,
Yeah.
one person, their business literally shut down overnight. So they went from making, a significant amount of income to
Wow.
business is done. They just had closed on a new home, went from like a lot of money to zero. And
Oh.
so they had a choice where it was like, okay, well, what do I do with this? Do I quit on business as a whole? Like I can just go back to doing this, but no, because their vision had already been stretched. They already had a vision of where they were headed and what they wanted to create. And so they got back, they got in another business, and now they've created more success than they did in the first one. And it comes down to a lot to perspective as well, too. And so a
Mhm.
couple of things that I want to share with your listeners is like having that clarity of where are you headed. That is one thing that was apparent throughout all the stories in the book, and these contributors is they knew where they're headed. They knew that where they wanted to go, it was worth
Okay.
it to push through the tough stuff. And so I always challenge people, do you know where you're headed? Do you know what you're creating? Do you know why you're like, what do you want your life to look like? I have a workbook that I created, and it's all about that. It's all about creating your dream day. And so in doing that, it helps you when you're going through the tough times because you can refocus. And on the cover, it's a picture of a lighthouse because that's how I've used my dream day over the years is as a lighthouse. When I'm going through those tough stuff, I can focus on it. And so in this book, there's a lot of clarity. So I always encourage people is like, write that, do that dream day activity, whether you get the workbook, whether you just do it with a pen and paper, from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you close them, what does that dream day look like for you? Right? Like
Mm.
who are you with? Who are the people you're with? What activities do you do? What do your finances look like? How do you feel physically? What about your mental health, your spiritual
Mhm.
health? Like going through that. And it's super important that when someone does it, they write in the present tense and they get in the feeling of actually living that dream day. And the
Okay.
reason I encourage people to do that is because, again, as I said, that can be your lighthouse when you're going through the tough stuff. Refocus on it and pull it. It actually like pulls you forward when you focus on it. And so that would be something for sure. They just knew where they're going. And the other thing is perspective. They had an amazing, all the contributors in there had an amazing way of being grateful,
Mhm.
finding gratitude even amidst the challenges. And again, when you're
Mhm.
going through a tough time, gratitude is not there to minimize it. It's just there to shift your perspective a little bit. So
Right.
finding something to be grateful for, they were able to find gratitude even in the tough stuff, and they were able to find the lesson in that. And that's why I say the perspective is, it's not like, again, we talked about getting comfortable and uncomfortable. It's not like you want to go through tough stuff. It's not,
Exactly.
I'm not the one being like, yes, can I have this challenge today? Not
Right.
from that standpoint, but it's from a standpoint that you understand there are going to be bumps when you're going after something new, when you're going after a goal or dream. And how do you have that perspective around it to go, okay, I know there's going to be some bumps in the road. How can I be ready for them? And what can I learn from that challenge to help me
Mhm.
on the long run when I move forward?
Mhm. Mhm. Phoebe, you are a what I call a positive force.
Thank you.
And I think that's a phenomenal. So, how do you help others unlock their potential? I know you said some things, but let's just kind of focus on that. Because one of the things I ask my listeners, and even in my book that I've written, is if I gave you a scale from 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest, how would you rate yourself in living your best life on your terms, right? And a lot of people struggle with that question. There's some people that say, oh, automatically they say, oh, I'm a 9, or, well, I don't know, just avoiding the question of, it was something to think about.
Mhm, mhm,
And so I would like to know, how would you get individuals to unlock? Like I said, they want to move forward in their lives, but some not sure what their best life looks like. Or
mhm,
there's some that says, you know what, I want a different job. I want to be promoted. I need to mend this relationship. I want to give back. A lot of things. So what do you, because I'm sure with your team, if you've ranked really high in the network marketing, what are some of the strategies that you do? Or maybe they're not strategies, just tools to
mhm.
help unlock their potential.
Awesome. So one thing I think that you said is that's really key is on your terms, because I do feel like a lot of times we can get in this, well, I'm supposed to do this because that's how society works. That's how
Right.
my life is supposed to be. So I really want people to focus on your terms. What does that look like? And that's why I'm so big on creating your dream day, because what does that look like? Everybody's dream day is going to be completely different. So
Yeah.
if you, and this is something I work on with my team, is like, if you could just do anything, again, you're like, what does that look like? But you have to get clear on that, right? You have to kind of sit there and sit with it and sit some time in it to go, well, what does that look like? What do I do on my dream day? Do I
Yeah.
have a business? Do I have a job? What kind of job is it? Who do I hang out with? What kind of foods do I eat? How do I feel? Like
Mhm.
really asking yourself, and in the workbook, we go through all those questions to really get people to start thinking, what does that look like? Because I do believe when you have that clarity in terms of what you want, then you can look at your present life right now where you're at and be
Mhm.
like, what should I do to help me get there?
Mhm.
Is what I'm doing right now going to help me get there? Is
Right.
it taking me closer to living it? And if so, great. Keep doing more of that. If it's not, then you have that time to kind of go, well, what would help me get there to living that? And so I really think that's very, very important. And you have to know where you're starting from. So I love that you ask people, where are you at now? Like, are
Yeah.
you, because if you don't see where you're at now, how can you make any changes to move forward? And it's
Right.
having that, kind of reality gut check, if you will, and going, well, what areas of my life are going really well? What areas of my life that I smile when I start to think about it? And if do more of those. And in the other areas of your life, if there's stuff that you're struggling with, how can you be more intentional to make those small shifts to move forward, if you will?
Mhm. Mhm. So,
Mhm.
what would your, this is not a 360, analysis or Myers Briggs, any of that, but what do you think a lot of your team members would say about you?
Oh, that's a great question. They would say that I am an encourager and I
Mhm.
celebrate. I celebrate them in their journey, their business, their life, and that
Mhm.
whatever they choose to do, because at the end of the day, it's a choice to build a business. Some people stay for a long time, some people come, some people go. They would say that regardless of if they came and stayed or they came and went, I'm going to celebrate them along their journey, whatever that looks like for them. And
Okay.
that I just want them to find, again, the joy, what brings them joy. And it might not be in the same company anymore. I have a lot of friends who have chosen, and teammates who are no longer with the same company, and I
Right.
still love them. I love them. I want them to shine in wherever they
Yeah.
go, because I do believe that when we all step into it and we walk our own personal journey and we create that success on our own terms, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like, that just unlocks other people's permission to do that as well too, right? We all have different desires on our heart, and when we start living our lives in those way where we're
Mhm.
doing that, and then other people are like, wait a second, she did it, maybe I can do it too. He did
Right.
it, maybe I can do it too. And I think that's a powerful way to,
Yeah.
that's a part of the ripple effect, right? When we start living our best life, other people start going, huh, I want to do what Cassandra's doing. She's enjoying her life. I'm gonna
Right.
do that. And it might, again, it's not necessarily going to be the same way. They may not start a podcast. They may not write a book. However, now it's just kind of allowing them to look into their own life and go, well, she took a step forward. I can take a step forward too.
Well, okay, so because the title of this podcast is your way in your way, could you share how your team members or either some of your athlete friends, how they have been in their way for moving forward from your perspective?
Yeah, so one way would be, and I'll use my own journey too. In the
Yeah,
beginning, I was not, I thought I was doing more than I actually was. So in my head, I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm kind of building a business. Today I don't want to. Today I'm not going to do anything. I'm an
right.
entrepreneur. I can choose.
Okay.
Tomorrow I'm going to do it. You know what? Today I'm just going to go hang out with friends." So I had a lot of very inconsistent activity. I wanted consistent results. However, my activity wasn't consistent. And
Good.
so having that look in the mirror moment where it's like, now, okay, here, it was a tip I learned was track your presentations. And in this term, we're talking business right now. So track
Right.
your presentations. And so when I started doing that, now it's like, oh, so I didn't really show as many people my business as I thought I did. Cause it, we can play tricks on ourselves. I thought I was
Yeah.
doing stuff. But when I had that reality of, okay, I'm going to start tracking stuff, then it's like, okay, well, now I'm tracking because I am doing stuff. I saw the gaps in my business. So one
Mhm.
way we can get in our own way is we can think we're doing more than we actually are. So measuring what you're doing is a huge thing.
Okay.
And once I started measuring that, then I was like, "Ooh, not doing as much. How can I do more?" And then when I started doing more and more consistently, then I started getting the results. So that applies to even like working, if you want physical results in terms of the gym and working out and whatnot, are you as consistent? Are you doing the things that are going to help you with those results? And
Mhm.
so that's a conversation I have with a lot of team members too. And I share that my story. I say I wasn't consistent in the beginning at
Right.
all. I was like, one day I'm going to do something, the next day I'm not, then I might, then I wouldn't. So how would you expect to get consistent results if you're not doing the consistent
Right.
activity?
Right.
So that would be a big thing that I have a conversation with people a
Okay.
lot.
Like a key result indicator.
Mhm.
And that's another way of celebrating. I really like that when you said celebration because we do so much, but yet we basically focus more on what we don't do
We
rather than
do.
what we've accomplished. And for us to celebrate, it just lets us know that we are progressing. You know,
Mhm.
when you track things, you are progressing. So I really like that. And I want to encourage my listeners to any small thing, little step you do, even gratitude, you're thankful that you woke up this morning or you're thankful you have food in the refrigerator. I don't take that for granted, so we can express our gratitude and just be grateful that we do have those things. So I love
Absolutely.
the celebration.
I one thing I say too, and I learned this again through my own journey is I say if you want to celebrate the harvest, you have to celebrate planting the seed. And so what I mean by that is the same thing we are just talking about. If you want to celebrate big stuff down the road,
Yeah,
it starts with celebrating the little stuff. And I didn't do that in the beginning. I would hit a goal and I'd be like, okay, next, hit a
right.
goal next. I didn't pause and even go, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, like I did that and celebrate. So that's why I'm so celebration's so key for me with
yeah,
my team
that's
is because
good.
we can look past stuff. We can go like, oh yeah, well I only helped one person get started in my business, or oh I only went to the gym 5 times this week instead of like we can downplay stuff. We can add this like,
Exactly.
well, versus going, hey, I got started in a business. I took the step. I decided. I made the
Mhm,
commitment to go forward. I went to the gym today. I drank
mhm.
enough water today. I made 5 calls to my business day, whatever it is. Like, so
Right.
taking that moment, as you said, gratitude's huge, and then also just making sure you're celebrating your stuff for the little things on way to your bigger things too.
Exactly, exactly. Now, I know you have a team. Do you coach like I know the entrepreneurship is the network marketing, but is there anything else like do you have another business where you help people unlock their potential?
Great question. At this point, no, I do not have another
Okay.
business where I do coaching in that sense.
Okay.
I do have the book that I've written, which in that inspiring stories of resilience, there are some elements of of coaching, in the sense that at the end of every chapter, there's a page called Reflections on Resilience, which is geared towards the reader to have their own little reflection, if you will. And then I have the workbook. So right now it's focusing on giving someone the tool for them to have that quiet time to do it, and to really dig deep in their own journey, if you will. So, however, stay tuned. That's a possibility.
Okay. Any is this a secret? Like, what's your next sequel going to be titled?
Yeah. So the next book, actually, I've started working on it. So it's Never Quit on a Bad Day, Inspiring Stories of Resilience. And it's going to be the Accomplished Athletes edition. So.
Okay. Well, great. Now, as we wrap up, I want you to do a call to action, for my listeners. Like, what is something, we talked about never quit on a bad day. We all have those days. Is there any other call to action that you can share? Any tidbits, any nuggets that you could share with the listeners in regards to that?
Yeah, one thing that I would share that is something that I started many, many years ago, and it's helped tremendously, is we talked about gratitude and how important gratitude is in terms of your perspective. And so I actually have a calendar event in my calendar every single day at 9:10 p.m. Pacific. It goes off in my calendar and it pops up and it says, I am so happy and grateful that. And the reason I share that is because we can often get so caught up in everything that we're going through that we're like, yeah, I need to be grateful. I should be grateful. I should be, but you're in this whatever you're going through. And so the reason I put that in there was so that I would, every single day when that pops up, I pause. I just take a couple seconds. If I'm at home, I close my eyes and I just think, what am I grateful for right now in this moment? If I'm driving and it goes off, then I just do it with my eyes open. But it's just that chance to pause and just be like, what am I grateful for right now in this moment? And so I encourage people to do that, to put that in your phone. You choose whatever time works best for you in your schedule. I chose evening time because oftentimes I am, at a place where I have that time at 9:10 where I'm, getting ready for bed or whatnot. So I can do that. And I mean, I've added to it. I start my morning with gratitude and I finish my evening with it, but I also have that in there as an extra little chance to just shift and find that. So I encourage everyone to do that. The other thing, you can get a free chapter from the book on my website. So that's another call to action where I would say, get that chapter, because there are the Reflections on Resilience page in there. And that specific chapter that is a giveaway all talks about language. What are we saying to ourselves in terms of the words that we use, and how the words that we use can help us move forward, or they might be, giving you that extra block, right? As you said, your title is Your Way in Your Way. Or some of the things you're saying to yourself that you're not even conscious of, could that be impacting you? So if you go to the website, neverquitonabadday.com, you can get that chapter completely for free. And at the end of every chapter too, there's a QR code to a video. So all the contributors share a video of encouragement. And that video of encouragement is so powerful. The story that he shares in it, that I just want, that's why I chose that chapter as the free one, so that everyone could have access to that story, because it's very, very powerful.
I do that. Okay, great. Well, my listeners, we want to thank Phebe Trotman for her wisdom today. And if you believe that this podcast has helped, well, whether this podcast will help somebody, which I know it will, please share it with them, please. And this podcast is on every Wednesday at 1 p.m. sharp Eastern Standard Time. And Phebe Trotman, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your resilience. I want to thank you for reminding us to never quit on a bad day. I will ruminate on that during the course of the day. So again, thank you, and blessings to all that's listening. And thanks again.
Thanks so much, Cassandra. Absolutely an honor. And I love what you're doing with this podcast. So keep shining, keep sharing, and thank you.
Thank you.